Tiru. We are going live on the Gene Keys and Human Design. If you are brand spanking new to the Gene Keys, just so you know, this is a deep dive into your human design and astrology. And I love to teach the Gene Keys through the lens of business. So if you're familiar with the Gene Keys, you may be like, oh, I've never heard it talked about that way. But if you've never been in this world before, hi, I'm so glad you're here. And whether you're watching this now or later, like there is so much gold to be found in your Gene Keys that helps you and directs you in the right like on this next path for you in your business. So I'm going to go ahead. I have my TikTok going on at the same time. I love to answer questions on here. I usually would do like mini readings and stuff like that. But lately I've been really drawn to just like getting on and answering people's questions because it's really stimulating at the end of the day. And it's really fun to see like, what do people believe about their human design? What do people know about their Gene Keys? Because a lot of times people haven't even like come to the place that they know what their Gene Keys are, much less like how to use them for their business. And so whenever you start to understand like your Gene Key profile and your human design profile are going to be the same, but the Gene Keys just infuses a little bit of extra sparkle into it so that you can understand how you best show up for your business. But where people really get tripped up, I feel like whenever it comes to using these Gene Keys for business, and especially content creation. So this has been like a major thing I've been focusing in on lately because I don't know about you, but I used to be the person that whenever like I knew I needed to show up daily for my posts and like for my online business, but like I truly wanted to cry. Like I wanted to close my head in my computer or throw my computer into the river because posting felt hard. It felt strained and difficult. And I knew it, like I was teaching about these Gene Keys, but I wasn't actually using them to help me further along my content, to help me get like really direct with what it is that I'm meant to say. And so the very first thing that comes into play, though, whenever we think about our content creation and how we can use our own magic is almost taking a step back from this human design and Gene Keys and be like, do I believe that I'm actually plugged in? Like, do you truly believe, like, if you're somebody that struggled with content creation, do you actually believe that you are plugged into the source of all that is? Because this is something I had a hard time with in the beginning. And I felt like everybody else on the internet had this like magic wand I was like, how are these people posting like 2 or 3 times a day? Like, how are they making this happen? Like whenever I felt so desperate every morning, just being like, what I was waiting for inspiration to strike. I was like, why does it feel like I'm sitting at my computer for over an hour to do one post? And like, that is not the vibe. Whenever you have an online business, like you don't have time to just sit around and wait for posts. But it was almost like the things that were in my brain, I couldn't figure out how to get them onto paper. And so onto the internet paper. And so the Canva paper. But so what happened was I started plugging into these Gene Keys. But before I even started using that inspiration of the keys, I really had to like see myself as this person that was connected. I had to see myself as this person that had unlimited ideas. And so in the beginning, whenever I started doing that, I'm a very big visualizer. And so in the beginning, whenever I started doing this, I would picture just this like wide open door inside of me. I would see this door and I would be like, you know what? Like making this content has been hard, but like I do mindset work. I've been in the spiritual world for years. I used to teach shadow work and do tarot readings, all of the things. And I knew I was like, okay, everything begins with mindset. Everything begins with energy. And it's up to me, no matter how I'm currently experiencing it, it's up to me to start seeing a different picture and start feeling a different way inside myself if I want to move the needle with this content creation. Because it wasn't just going to happen by me sitting there and feeling like it was hard over and over and over again. Even on the days that it felt really hard, I had to start believing that content was fun. I had to start believing that I was this open channel for really, really good ideas to come through that people on the internet would go crazy about. That people on the internet would be like, oh my gosh, where have you been my whole life? I've been waiting for you. Like, I've been waiting to hear this. Or like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking that. Thank you so much for saying it. Like, you have so many of those messages tucked inside of you, but it's literally all about deciding that content creation, whether it be your videos or whether it be actual written posts, gets to be fun. And it gets to be something where you feel so like soul led and fully expressed as you do it, because you deserve that. Like, at the end of the day, it's not that somebody else has this like magical wand. It's just that they decided that what they had to say was cool. They decided that what they had to say was groovy. And like, one of my favorite things to do is whenever you see somebody that is like a big content creator, or like has a really strong online social media presence, is you can go back to their older posts and see like things evolve over time. So you can't be so hard on yourself in the beginning whenever you're starting to show up daily and post online. It's not for you to sit there and judge yourself. It's for you to trust that you have this open door, to trust that you are plugged in and ready to go at any moment in time. And I don't know about you, but like, I used to post 2 or 3 times a week. And you might be like, what does that have to do with Gene Keys? Well, it's because I get so inspired for posts from my Gene Key profile, from my human design profile, and all of the extras that go into that. But we have to address this energetic piece in the beginning. And so once I started seeing myself as this open door and started seeing myself as like, okay, I can do this. This feels fun. I stopped judging myself so much in these posts and worrying what other people thought about me. And so that is one thing that you've got to know whenever you begin posting. Like, do you have eyes in your audience that don't feel supportive to what it is that you're doing? Because your social media is not for your friends, it's not for your family. If you have an online business, this is your soul's mission. This is like what you've come here to do and to impact other people. So start treating it like that. Start treating it like it's something really special and that only the right eyes get to be on that. So if at all you feel like a hiccup or you feel a kink in your hose because you're thinking about, oh my gosh, what if so-and-so sees this? And then you want to go sugarcoat your message, right there out of the bat, that's going to have you feeling flustered and like I said, like a kink in the hose whenever it comes to creating content. And so being aware of that, we're adding so many things into this today. Just so you know, I've had all of this like stirring and purring in my heart for a while now, just because I experienced the other side of this so deeply that there's so many factors that go into like using these Gene Keys to help you show up online. And truly, like, sometimes we just need the inspiration. Sometimes we just need to learn this thing about ourselves that make us different to be like, okay, like you turn into somebody new. Just like I was saying, when you're plugged in, when you're that open door, when you already decided that, whenever you know these Gene Keys or you know your profile lines, this is where it's like this archetype energy that ignites inside of you, and you start to hold yourself as someone different. You start to recognize, like, oh my God, these are my talents, these are my gifts and abilities. So, what if I started creating from this point of view? Like, what if I started showing up and teaching on these things that are in my chart? So, we go from the energetic side of just believing that content can be fun and easy into understanding that these Gene Keys in your human design is a roadmap for your success. So, what I found in my Gene Keys, whenever I started digging deep into them, was the fact that a lot of the stuff in there that I learned, it was like a duh moment. Like, of course, Stephanie, like, of course, this is what you're good at. I often refer to these Gene Keys as you know, those cosmopolitan quizzes that we took whenever we were younger. And it was like, oh my God, I just want to learn more about myself. And like, that's what these Gene Keys do on steroids. That's what your human design does, like on steroids. It just like takes that up a notch where you really get to understand yourself on a soul level. And I'm a big believer, even though I teach human design and Gene Keys, like I'm a big believer that we don't need to stay caged up with this information. Like, follow it so thoroughly that you don't feel creatively expressed or that you feel like it's holding you back, but you use it as inspiration to catapult you forward and to just like grab this gold and run with it. And so I love to see these gene keys as something that can really inspire a lot of the posts that we create. And so I found out in my gene key chart, it was like, hey, Stephanie, you're really good at talking about success versus failure mindset. It was like, hey, you're really good at using your voice. And at that time, I was not using my voice at all. I did not have the bravery to get on camera and to talk the way that I do. So I'm not a human design coach. I just teach that along with the gene keys. I am what they consider a gene key guide, but I like to think of myself as a little activator, a little activating coach. And so I mostly teach the gene keys, but in my mind, human design and gene keys are married. I am buddy with so many human design readers. Like we got Tangi and we got Brandy Yates over here and so many people over on Instagram. And we speak the same language, truly. They know even more into like the circuitries and the specific like channels that flow together, where I focus in on just like the gates and the keys. So, and the profile line. So I don't know if you are big into human design, but like for me, I know everybody loves strategy and authority, but for me, what makes my heart sing is truly the profile lines. And the profile lines carry over into our gene keys as well and can help us whenever it comes to our posting, how we show up online. Yes. But yes, good question. And so a lot of people that I know that have become a human design coach just ended up like studying on their own time or taking courses, things like that. For me, with the gene keys, I understood the gene keys first before I learned human design, which is totally backwards for most people, because most people learn human design and then they start sprinkling in the gene keys. So last year, whenever I decided I wanted to start talking about these gene keys, there was like hardly any information out there. There wasn't even like TikTok videos on it. It was crazy. And so I just kind of started weighing it. And so now in this last year, I've noticed more human design readers start to incorporate the gene keys in there. But for me, gene keys made sense first. And then I literally like understood all of human design within 4 days. I was like, I just gobbled up the information. It made sense. I just came across this information and have been trying to understand fully. Yeah. That's totally understandable. For me, like I went into a deep dive and I just like, I learned my butt off and I ended up signing up for like the gene key course, like the official gene key course, but truly I didn't even use that material. I just like decided to do that because I knew I was legally going to be talking about gene keys a lot in my business. And it was just kind of like a way, like an energetic way of saying like, thank you too for all of the inspiration and insight that the gene keys provided me. Because I ended up teaching myself, like from the books and from studying human design, studying the I Ching, I combined all of that information together and I interpret the gene keys a different way than a lot of people do. I see it through the lens of business, through the lens of being an entrepreneur and how to take action, where a lot of times whenever people teach the gene keys, it's very poetic. It's sometimes cryptic. And so that's why I've seen so many people that are like very, very intelligent, but it's like they put the books down because they're like, I don't understand this. This is too much. Yeah. Wasn't that much info. Yeah. And so that's why I love teaching. I've been using this with my natal chart and it's quite amazing. Oh my gosh, right? I think of it as like all of it is the same information, but with a different mask on. Like all of it is the same. It's coming from the same little honeypot, but it's different. It's a different kind of vibe that you feel with it. And so truly, I've never seen human design and gene keys as anything separate. Richard Rudd, who channeled out the gene keys, actually studied under Ra Uru, who did human design. And so they're very much married in my mind. I don't see them as a separate thing. I see them as a complement to one another. Where a lot of people talk and they're like, human design is more structured and gene keys is more flowy. I don't know. I love to think about the gene keys as being structured because I see them through the lens of action. Like I see it through the lens of like turning on our higher qualities. But yeah, like there are plenty of things that are in the human design chart that haven't been moved over to the gene key chart because the gene keys are relatively new. Like it's not something that has been around for that crazy pants long. And so from what I've heard from other people and just like my own intuitive tinglings, I'm like, I don't feel like the gene keys are done. I feel like there's going to be other, because it's like taken from the planets that we have. So I feel like there's going to be other planets incorporated into the charts. And so I love digging into the human design chart as well to give people extra insight around their gene keys. Like it all goes together. So don't be hard on yourself whenever you're just starting to learn this material, because like it's a lot of information, and it's one of those things that like if you love it, you love it, and you just can't help it. You're just hungry for that information, and you're like Miss Pac-Man where you just like gobble it up. Oh, okay. So if you want to find your gene keys, go to just go Google free gene key profile, and the Gene Key website will come up with like a free profile, and you can enter your date, time, location of birth. And then make sure that you were following me over here. You follow me over on Instagram. I have a lot of different information about like how to read your chart, what the different things mean as you like keep scrolling down. I've been posting about this for a hot minute now, like since the fall. So I've got a lot of different like levels of information and like levels of learning that I've gone through with this. Cause I feel like at this point, I've probably like thoroughly studied and retaught the gene keys like 4 or 5 times at this point, where it just keeps getting deeper. And like at the end of the day, with human design readers, with astrology readers, my Instagram is the same as it's Hey Stephanie Eastman. If you go to the link or go to my bio, there should be the little Instagram box guy. And so it should take you there, but it's Hey Stephanie Eastman. So I talk a lot about business over there because I really combine the gene keys with business and like how to making money online feel good to you, like how to build a business through your strengths. So that's what we do. That is what we do over here in my corner. But yeah, just go Google free gene key profile. It'll pull it up for you. I remember the first time I looked at it and I was like, what in the heckity heck is this information? Because you see a human design chart and you're like, I'm familiar with chakras. Like this kind of makes sense. Like I'm seeing a body, but like the gene keys, it's like, holy shnikes, this is 11 circles. Like what do these circles mean? And so I often like make jokes. I'm like, I teach you like how to read the circles, or I like read your circles for you. Because I just think it's really funny. But all of those circles mean something different. So like one of them is the energy of your career. And that's like where I fell in love. I'm a 5-year entrepreneur. I used to be a lavender farmer and a psychic medium. And I honestly thought I was going to retire from lavender farming to speak to people that had crossed over. Like I thought that was the last stop at my train station. Like I thought I was going to be Teresa Caputo. Like, and what happened whenever I learned these gene keys, and after I'd been doing these mediumship readings for a while, and I knew I was done with the farming and making my all natural products, it was just a matter of time. But after doing all of those mediumship readings and how spot on and how accurate they were, I felt without a shadow of a doubt that I came across this gene key information. It was almost like I was getting pushed back from the other side of being like, we're good over here. Like what you need to do now is show people how to live their life. And so I thought that I was just supposed to be talking to people that had crossed over for the rest of my life. And it turned out like what I had learned from the other side was we need to live while we're here, and we need to know how to do it to our highest capacity, our highest potential. Because up until the point that I found the gene keys, I was sleeping on so much talent, and I was letting other people run my life. Like I was allowing other people to be on these pedestals. I was thinking that everybody else and their mom was the expert except me. And truly, this gave me this like turned on a level of my power that I had never experienced before. And so this last year, I've just like been my own human guinea pig, and then started working with other business owners to see how these gene keys incorporated in their success as well. I've even done like these celebrity gene key readings where I like pull out, I'm like, oh, this makes sense why they were successful for that. Oh, that lines up with how they're successful. And so it's really interesting once we start like looking at these very successful people, how the gene keys have come into play in their life. Like, and it's funny because some people just like have like figure it out on their own. They just like stumble upon it. But other people like me, like I needed that guidance from my gene keys. Like I wanted to learn more about myself and get pointed in the right direction. I've been manifesting using my gifts to make a career path, and I have come across, oh my gosh, I love that. This is what it's all about. Like, this is truly what it's all about. Like, you ask and you receive, and you can just take this information and do whatever the heck you want with it. Like, I never tell people that you have to do it the exact same way as me, or you have to see it the exact same way as me. Like, I'm a big believer in the fact that, like, we all interpret these gene keys in our own way, in the way that we need them. And so sometimes the way that I speak about them, you'll be like, gobble, gobble, gobble. Like, I love this. I want more. And then there might be something that you learn that I don't teach that you're like, oh my gosh, but I really dig this part of it too. So it's all part of your unfolding. Like, you asked and you've been put in this position where it's like, okay, like, let's make this clear as day now. So it's the craziest thing how what just like words, this is the wildest thing. Just words from our gene keys can activate something in your system, like you're a freaking sleeper agent or something. Like it's like these words just get said and you're like, holy crap, I see where I need to go now. So for me, in my life's work, so that very top gene key, that very top circle, I found out that it was all about, it's a 30-second gene key. Source will always send the message to you to receive. Yeah, for sure. That's what happens whenever we decide to shine a light on something. And that's what I feel like we do with these gene keys. We like make something important and we believe that it's important. And then our reality can't help but bend to us whenever we decide, like, hey, this is what I want to see. This is what I want to know. And that's part of like just trusting that you're always plugged in. But I found out that my life's work was the 32. And this is all about, this is all about like success versus failure mindset to a really high degree. And so I heard it called, her name's Christianese. She writes about human design. I talk about her all the time. I'm such a nerd. Like, I talk about her all the time because she takes the human design gates, aka the gene keys, and like calls them archetypes. And so there's also another website called Unlock Your Design that does the same thing. And so for me, the archetypes, like pictures, imagery, makes these gene keys click for me. Like, it makes it make sense. I'm a fantasy lover. Like, so I love Twilight. I love Harry Potter. Like, I love The Witcher, like Throne of Glass. I'm on the last book of Throne of Glass. Nobody tell me what happens. It's crazy. But I love like those archetype energies. That makes a lot of sense to me and that helps me remember. So it's funny. Sometimes people like name a gene key with like its official name and I'll be like, what? Just give me a number and I'll tell you what's up. Like, that's how it clicks in my brain. And so I found out that mine was called, I just pulled it up, my mouth is on the floor. Winter. I'm so glad that you like that. It's freaking crazy. It's banana pants crazy. Archetypes would be helpful with these. Ooh, okay, Katrina, okay, this is why we do the Q&A. This is really fun. Okay, so here we go. We are getting down to business. So the 28th gene key is such a fun one because this is called the Daredevil. And so the very first girl that I read for, actually the very first business reading I did, somebody had this in their prosperity sequence. So the blue up top, which means this is how they make money. And so the 28, I always have pictured, because she lived in New York City, she's kind of like sassy, and it like I would picture her in almost like this Catwoman outfit, like this all black leather outfit, like straddling the edge of a building. And I told her about this. I was like, there's so much like daredevil, wild child energy in you. And she's like, holy crap. She's like, my family used to call me Mayhem because like she would go out and she'd do like gymnastics. She like wouldn't wait for the coach. She'd just go out and flip and be crazy. And it also like, there's also the other side of the pendulum with this as well, where sometimes you feel like you're too afraid to like do anything. And so it's almost like one extreme or the other that we experience. And, oh my God, I love her. Yeah. It's almost like one of the two that we experience at different times with these gene keys. Like, we see both faces of the coin. And so this is all about like being willing to be wild, being willing to break the rules, being willing to be edgy. Like, edgy is totally different. And whenever you're edgy, and you are almost like making yourself uncomfortable in the best kind of way, like you're pushing your limits, that is where so much juice is going to come through for you whenever it comes to how you show up in your work and in your business. So you are not meant to be the sit back type as much as like the active, like, let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can stir up. And then you move back and like let it all play out. So you really do have an active role in this world where you can stir things up and make magic happen and help other people to be wilder too, because that's just like part of your magic potion. And then Gene Key 19 is all about, if you want to find your Gene Keys, make sure you go Google free Gene Key profile, and you just type in your date, time, location of birth on the Gene Key website, and it will pull up a chart with 11 different circles. All of the circles mean something different. And so energy of your career, your life's purpose, how you make money, all sorts of groovy stuff. So you're welcome. Yeah. Wild child. You are the wild child. And with that, Katrina, as well, there is like this fear of death that comes along with that. And so I actually, like, back whenever I did my mediumship and I was just learning the Gene Keys, I was very drawn to that key as well, because there's actually like a YOLO vibe to it, where it's like you only live once. And it's almost like that needs to become your motto of like, I'm here for a blink, like, let's go big. But the 19th Gene Key, Winter, that is all about sensitivity. And so actually, like, some of the more badass people that I've known that are a little more like rough around the edges have this 19th Gene Key, because there's so much magic whenever they finally open up. Like, there's so much magic whenever they just become their sweet selves and they let other people in. And this doesn't mean even like all the time on the internet, but like, if you're somebody that posts a lot, or if you have an online business, or if that's like what you're going into, you're going to see that whenever you drop certain messages that like almost like open up this sweet spot in your heart, people can't help but be drawn to you. And so this is something I always say about these Gene Keys. I'm like, yes, these are things that we're really, really good at, but they also take practice. And for me, mine was all about my voice. Whenever I learned these Gene Keys, there was so much about my voice. And once I started like using my voice, it wasn't perfect at first. Like, in fact, it was very like cracky. It was very like nervous. I was shaking. I was sweating my face off. And so you'll see that sometimes it's a little uncomfortable whenever we lean into these Gene Keys. Even though there are gifts and they come natural to us, that doesn't mean that there isn't some time where you're like a baby deer that gets their footing. Like, it happens fast, but like, yeah, there's those little wobbly moments at first. So you get to experiment with how you use your sensitivity whenever you create content. So just find what it is that you're passionate about, what you love teaching people, what you love helping people with. And then blend these Gene Keys together with it. Like, use this as like, almost like, if it was like a mushroom and Mario like eats the mushroom and then he stands up straight. So it's like you're infusing that energy. You're turning on that energy inside yourself. I have the 19 in my sequence too. This is so helpful. Oh, I'm so glad to hear. This is why we do these Q&As. I love them. I love them. So one of my favorite things though, whenever it comes to like posting online, because this is something that I really had trouble with whenever I started. I've been talking a lot about content creation lately, and I have a masterclass next week. It's $99, banana pants crazy. Go sign up for it. It's on Monday and Thursday, but it's all about igniting this like content creator inside of you, because this is something I used to really, really struggle with. And once I started incorporating the magic of my Gene Keys, and especially those profile lines that we have in our human design and our Gene Keys, they're the same. That's when the world really opened up for me. And it has been like this unfolding over the past few months of like learning to show up in my best kind of energy. So I'm an Aquarius with a life path 1. Nice. It's so funny. I used to like speak life path numbers and like, no, I know I'm on 11, but I used to like have all of those so nailed down. And now that my brain is full of Gene Keys, I'm like, I don't speak that language as much as I used to. I got Gene Keys on the brain. But yeah, that life path number one, from what I can remember, that's like that leadership energy. That's that solo energy. But where we go into our profile lines is where you're going to get a lot of juice, Winter, and everybody else that's here listening today. And so for me, I used to try to show up for my business because I used to do psychic medium work, and there was like an element of spiritual healing, of shadow work, all of that stuff. And I used to try to show up very emotional. And I would make my content creation, like where I would just like throw all of my baggage out there and be like, this is who I am, this is what I've learned, blah, 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 blah. And it would drain me. And it wouldn't, oh, you're 32 as well? We must have close birthdays. Yeah, I'm October 18th. So we must have close birthdays. Yeah. I love the 32. It's the success oracle. So that's what changed my life and inspired my business, was those two words. Like I am not even joking. Oh, you're the 19th. Nice. Yeah. And so success oracle, I was like, no wonder I've been doing all this psychic medium work. Like I knew that I could point people towards their true north, what would make them money and what would make them successful. I just didn't always know how to put a finger on that. So like you just have this inner thing inside of yourself, Deb, where you are like a compass for other people. You can do it for yourself too, but you're really a compass for other people. Whenever they'll tell you a paragraph of information, you can grab out one thing and be like, holy crap, tell me more about this, because this is what's going to make you just like be on fire. But so back to the profile line. So this is very important to me. So I love talking about this. And I know that if it helped me so deeply, that this, like these little shifts can help you too. And so I used to try to be overly emotional, and I would be drained after I would like work with people. I would be drained after I made posts. And I found out, like, finally I understood that whole profile line 5-2 that I have. And it was through learning my gene keys that human design finally clicked for me. And so all of it came together at once. But I found out that through being a 5, I am supposed to give my wisdom, like drop my knowledge out there in like a lickety split manner, in like a quick wisdom, like practical. You're a 5-2. I don't see a lot of 5-2s ever. I've done hundreds of readings, Katrina, and like literally like this many little squeaker people have been 5-2s, just so you know. Or a bunch of rare birds. There's a couple of the profile lines that are more rare birds, like the 4-1, even like the 1-4, 2-5. That one is as well. 6-3, 3-6. But then there's other ones where it's just like, everybody jump on this party. But we all use it in a different way. That's the groovy thing. Like we all use it in a different way. So it doesn't matter. Like if somebody else shares your profile, they may show up totally different than you. But because we have different passions, we have different gene keys. Like there's so many other aspects to our chart too that make us different. That's like saying that all Leos are the same. You know, they are not. But they have like an air to them that is similar. But so being a 5-2, I found out that I did not need to be doing all of these like insanely long posts that like we learn. If you're a spiritual entrepreneur or a business coach and you've been in this world for a long time, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where it's like, make sure you give value, make sure you tell your story, make sure it's educational content. And like, I get it. Like all of those things have such an important place in our business and how we show up. But I was trying to show up and be like so overly involved with it that I would want to slam my head shut in the computer until I understood the 5 is all about that quick, practical wisdom. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't ever write longer posts, because I do. I sprinkle those in. But I started infusing like my sense of humor, which is another one of my gene keys, in with this practical wisdom, this like lickety split information into my content. So now I'm doing like those little tweet posts. I'm doing just like notes posts that I have. I'm doing where it's just like a sentence that I think of and I drop it in. I do a lot of memes now that I'm absolutely obsessed with. Like I could literally sit there and make memes all day about like the different profile lines and the gene keys and human design. And I have never experienced so much freedom with my creativity and with my content. Like, I am happy as a clam. Like, I could post 3 or 4 times a day because I just have so much to say, because I'm being true to my profile line, because I'm being true to myself. And I'm a big believer. I'm like, don't ever let these profile lines like keep you in a corral. Like, you're a wild stallion. Like, you're going to eventually want to break out of these fences and run free in the meadow, but use it as like a foundation, almost like river banks. You know what I mean? Like, use it as something that like grounds you in, and then play from there. And so because I learned that it was all about practical wisdom, like everything changed. So you could be somebody that you have a 1 in your human design profile, in your gene key profile, like you're a 1-3 or a 1-4. Like, your stuff is going to be a little bit more information dense than the other birds, and that's okay. Like, use that to your advantage, because you do really well with logic and statistics and facts. Boundaries help you play to the edges. Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things that whenever you're a 1, you're going to bring up all of this information that you went and gobbled up for the rest of us to learn from. And so people will be drawn to that. And so it's funny. I ended up working with a business coach for 6 months who she's a 1-3. And so she has those longer posts. And so I tried to model after that because I saw that working for her. But then I found out, like, I've tried all the different things, right? Until we find our own group. But it was one of those things that whenever I was like, oh, I don't have to write posts exactly like that, just because I was drawn to the information and I learned something, I learned a lot of things from her, doesn't mean that that's how I show up exactly. Like, you've got to be able to trust your own self and your own strategy, your own business strategy, what works for you. And so once I started making those posts in an easier way, everything shifted. Now I'm just like, oh, I could post all day. So if you're a 2, you're somebody that's supposed to be talking about like your natural genius. Like, I feel like, because I'm a 5-2, so I have this inside of me. And I feel like as 2s, sometimes you don't want to feel like braggy. Like, if you're a 2-4 or a 2-5, especially, or even like 6-2s and 5-2s, like, I'm sure that we feel this way because you have such a natural genius that is meant to like spill out in your content. So Katrina, as I'm talking about this, like, since you're a 5-2, like, the things that I say about the 2 will apply to you as well. But like, where we lean in really hard is on the 5. And so the same, if you're like listening to me talk now and you're a 1-3, you're going to lean in really hard on the 1, but there's still going to be elements of that 3 that you play with. My plans are to live in a meadow. Okay. But so whenever you have the 2, this is really about allowing yourself to shine with what you're gifted in. And so it can be like, we grow up learning that it's like bad to brag about yourself, that it's bad to like put yourself on blast, things like that. And it's like, no, like, you have a talent that like people want to come to you for, and they want to pay you for. And like, there's not anybody in the world that has a place to question how it is that you know what you know, or you do what you do. It's just the magic that flows through you. And so you've got to really be willing to tap into this whenever you're creating your content, like where the 1s are going to go back up the facts. Like, you just have this magic that swirls out of you, and you help guide other people through that. And then if you have a 3 if you're a line 3, so if you're a 3-5 or a 3-6, it's all going to be about like these stories, these experiences, and putting that spin of humor on it as well, because you are some of the most relatable of all the lines. Being that 3, where your life is like that roller coaster, you need to get off of the roller coaster and like get the juice from it before you hop back on and go for another ride, because people want to learn from that juice. Like, that saves them a lot of steps. That saves them a lot of time, is learning from your wisdom. So not being willing, or not being afraid to share all of the highs and lows that you've went through as a 3, all of the highs and lows as you went through as a 3, and really like open yourself up to other people. So it's almost like these 3s have this like, where it would be easy to run away. Like, in one of the Gene Key books, it's like, just like, I can't remember if it was attraction. I think it might've been attraction. that talks about the point three line. And I feel like these all blend together and mix together, but it talks about like they have this energy of like a Jane Austen novel where it's like, will they, won't they? They keep running away from what they know what's good for them. But at the end, they always end up with Mr. Darcy or like whoever they need to be with. They always end up with that person. And so if the threes are just like vulnerable and open themselves up from the very beginning and share their story, they get themselves so much further in the long run. And then the fours, we love the fours. Like, so if you have a 4-6 or a 4-1 profile, like whenever you post, oh, I love writing science fiction. That's awesome. Whenever you post, you're going to be leading with that big squishy heart. Like you have so much love. You lead with pain. You lead with pleasure. You lead with experiences and connections. And so being this 4, I often think of them as like this groovy little influential Care Bear. Like you really do know how to bring other people together. And if you're like working with clients, you're almost like the soft landing pad for them to fall on. Ooh, you're a 5-1. So like I was saying, there's part of that energy that you have with the 1 where my husband's a 5-1. I'm very familiar with the 5-1s. And so you're somebody that gobbles up that information, but then you deliver it in a practical lickety split kind of manner. You just like put it out there and you're like, I already got the kitchen dirty. Here you go. Here's the cupcake. Like that's how you do it. You're just like, take it or leave it. Here you go. And like being a 5, I'll get back to the 5 in a second. Being the 5, or being the 4, sorry. We hadn't finished with the 4 yet. But having this 4, like you really do give people a place where they feel recognized and they feel seen whenever they work with you. And so that's like part of your superpowers, but you have this very like head of the table kind of energy. So like, don't be afraid if you have that line 4 to be influential. Just because you're friendly, like doesn't mean that you can't be super influential. And then the 5s, we're back circling around lickety split wisdom, quick. A lot of times whenever you're a 5-1 or a 5-2, if you're really living your right way, to some people, you may seem like you're not emotional. To some people, you may seem like you're not a big feeler. And actually, like, that has been the most freeing thing for me is learning that about myself, is that I don't need to be like overly dramatic. I don't like, I get jazzed up and juiced up whenever I'm doing these lives. Like I literally feel like I just ate 1,000 Sour Patch Kids and I'm just excited like a squirrel. That's different to me than having to pretend to be overly emotional whenever I don't feel that way. That's totally different to me. Like my emotion when it comes through, Libras, yes, my emotion when it comes through it's genuine. So I don't need to fake being anything. And so some people will tell me stories and I may seem like kind of like, oh, okay. Like just because I don't want to play into that the same way that they do. Like that doesn't feel good for me. And so it's very interesting whenever you're a 5 because you are meant to be in this leadership position and be up on your soapbox and speak the way that you know that you need to speak and share your opinions. And your opinions are very polarizing. Your opinions are going to have people say like swipe left or swipe right, like whatever you do on the dating apps. Like it's going to be like a yes or a no. Like there's no in between whenever you're a 5. And that's a good thing. Actually, that weeds out a lot of people. But whenever it comes to making content, you do not have to go into the ooey gooey center of the Tootsie Pop all the time. Like you do really well just popping in, giving somebody like, hey, blah, 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 blah. Like this is a magic fact that's going to like change the way that you show up in your day. And then you just like step out and you like poof into a cloud of smoke. It's just like, that's who you are as a 5. And then if you're a line 6, the 6-2s and the 6-3s, you live that first 30 years like you're riding on the roller coaster, just like the 3, but then you get off of it and you gain so much perspective and wisdom. And really, you live all of the energy of the lines before you, like the 1 through 5. So like you've seen things, like you've experienced things. And the line 6 is all about actually like they're ahead of their time in a sense, but this doesn't mean that people won't get you. as a 6. So just because you're ahead of your time does not mean people won't get you. It means the right people are going to get your message that you're sharing. And so really, I always call the 6s like they're an alien. Like they are not of this world, but they are in it. And that outsider's point of view that they have is absolute gold to the people that they're meant to work with. And so even though sometimes they can feel like very separate, whenever they just like know that they're here for this experience and that they have these bigger dreams and they hold on to these bigger dreams and they let them evolve, they let them change. But like there is so much of a visionary inside of the 6, a visionary teacher, really. And whenever they tune into that element of themselves and start to teach people through their visions and through what they've learned, they are in their sweet spot. So that comes through whenever they tell stories in their content as well. Seer, strong woman now. That's amazing. Yeah. And so it's all like we come across this information whenever we're ready to go to the next level in our life. Like I really do fully believe that whenever you come across the Gene Keys, it's because you were on the precipice of greatness. For me, I remember very clearly sitting in my living room, eating half of a watermelon. I tell this story all the time, but it's so funny. Like I had a spoon in my hand. I was eating half of a watermelon like I do in the summer. And it just like hit me over my head. Like nobody was coming to do my work for me. Nobody was coming to show up on the internet for me. No magic fairy was coming to bop me on the head and say, Stephanie, now's the perfect time. I realized it was up to me to put myself out there, to learn more about myself, to turn on these qualities that are inside these Gene Keys and to become the best version of myself possible if I wanted to create the impact that I saw in my mind. And so you may feel the exact same way where you're like, I'm done. Like whether you haven't started your business yet or you've been doing it for a while, but you feel like it just doesn't resonate the same way anymore and you're ready for something new. Like this is the time where we stop twirling our thumbs and we start taking action and we start like really living up to our talents, living up to our gifts and abilities, because like you've been blessed. You've been blessed. Every single one of us, we have this energy. We have the creator energy flowing through us. And it's up to us to take it out for a test drive, to get really good at it, because nobody is good at anything just right off the bat perfectly. Like there's, even if you're like more inclined to play the piano, like there's still practice that goes into it. Yeah, showing up for myself. And another thing that whenever it comes to content, this is more human design based, but like I said, I do believe that they're adding more to the Gene Keys, but I sprinkle this in whenever I talk about the Gene Keys and human design because I blend them. But it's like really that Mercury placement. So if you pull up your human design chart and you look at like where the Mercury is on your unconscious and your conscious side, that's going to be a big part of your message as well. And so I found out that my Mercury is the same as my life's work on my conscious side. So that's all about being the success oracle, pointing people in the right direction of what's going to be successful for them. And then also on my unconscious side is the 7. So if you're familiar with the gate 7, this is the alpha. And this is about, you know, showing people a new way. This is about like owning up to your leadership, but also teaching other people how to lead themselves. Because I don't know about you, but like, and I have like a little bit of this like anarchy energy whenever it comes to that 7. And there's a part of me that is like, no, like you can learn from other teachers, you can be a student, but my God, there's so much magic that happens whenever you make the rules for yourself. Like, that's why I always tell people, I'm like, take what you need from what I teach and then go do it your own way. Go tweak it. Go twerk it. Go do it. Go do it the way that feels really good for you, because like you're the captain of your own ship. And if anybody ever tells you there's only one way of doing things, like that shit's not for you. It's not for you because you get to make the rules. Like, and I think I feel so strongly about this because I used to put other people on the pedestal. I used to be that person that thought everybody else had it more figured out than me. And it couldn't be further from the truth. We just got to like find that piece of ourselves that ignites this leadership quality. And so a lot of what I've learned from the 7 and what I share with people is like the ability to like be your own alpha, the ability to like, if something doesn't feel right, to break away from the group and go out and like mark your own territory, go out and like find your own group of people that like get to learn something from you and then move on. And so find what's in your Mercury too, as well, whenever it comes to your content. So we have your profile lines. That's really, really big whenever it comes to creating your content, but also that Mercury placement is going to be huge because that's about how you communicate. And so whenever we know what we're good at communicating, it makes it so much easier to like make posts and have like inspiration come through that. Because really what we do with these gene keys, what we do with like these human design gates is like we take that information, we take that inspiration and we pull it down into the ground so that you can run with it. I am a huge believer in like writing down the archetypes. I don't know about you, but like this is how I get some of my best ideas is like I'll write down the archetypes and then you just like write. You just like write what ideas come to your mind. And even if there's one good idea out of 20, like you got your brain up and moving. I am a huge believer that if we exercise something, the more readily available it becomes. So the more I post, the more that I like come up with these ideas around my gene keys and how I show up, the more it just constantly flows through you, you know? So thinking about if you've ever had issues with creating content for your online business, or even if you're at like this pivotal moment in your business of where you're like, I'm ready to change what it is that I do, what it is that I offer. Like, I get it. I have been there and I still learn more and more every single day, like every single day. And I've been doing this for a long time now. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 5 years. The focus on psychic medium stuff, probably like 3 or 4 years. And then really taking my online business seriously in the last 10 months since I sold my other business. I sold my lavender company. And so, man, what I've learned in the last 10 months though, compared to posting before sporadically, it's like I've gone to business school and back, like Instagram, TikTok, business school and back. So it's a lot of information. 5-1 manifestor here. What's your best advice and what are you? I am a 5-2. So I was just talking about 5-1s before. My husband is a 5-1 manifestor. And really, whenever you have that 5-1, there is so much about like the informing that comes into play. And so like you're really here to teach people the information that you gobble up, even if it's something that you're like, who could use this? Like I always say, so my husband does IT. He's really, really smart with computers and things like that, but he is so good with motorcycles. And so there has to be a day that comes that he goes out there and he teaches people things about motorcycles, about like maybe even like helping people how to do it. Cause truly, like that's what he's passionate about. That's what he loves learning about. That's what he'll gobble up all that information about. And so he will do best whenever he's fully like lets himself express that side of who he is too. And like whether he has like a side business or whatever it is, like it's taking the information that you love and learning how to package that and make a business out of that. And so, like I said, there's so much about informing that you have just like in your blood, like you get to teach people other things. And with that 5, it's that lickety split wisdom. Hey, Peggy, I thought I saw your picture up there. I always see your red picture because it has, I love the red energy. I've been posting a lot of red in my stuff lately. It's jazzy. Okay, so the 14 is a really funny visual that I get. And this didn't happen until I started writing my ebook, which is almost complete. It's all of my interpretations of the different gene keys. And it's so funny. Like I got this visual very clearly whenever I started writing the book. And so, hello. And so that 14 is all about you learning how to make money doing what you love and then inspiring other people how to do it. But the visual that kept coming to my head while I was writing this was this idea of Peter Pan teaching the other kids how to fly to Neverland. And so it was just like these think happy thoughts, but because they were with him and because they were like guided and instructed that they could do it, they were able to fly as well. So you are the facilitator. Once you learn how to do this and fly for yourself fully, and I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, by the way, to do this. I want to make that very crystal clear. Like, none of us are perfect. None of us have it all figured out. Like, there is an element of magic that happens, like David Bowie says, whenever you walk out into the water where your feet are barely touching the sand. That's where we create incredible things. So you are allowed to guide people. You don't have to be this like perfect person all figured out to guide people and help them fly. And in fact, you have this incredible magic about you that when people are around you, they feel a million times better. Like, if you've ever noticed that before, like, you make people feel invincible. You make people see that they have something really cool to themselves that maybe they haven't seen before. And so knowing that this is part of your superpower, that even when people are just in your presence, like, transformation changes. And it's almost like you have this little spell, you have this little way of like encoding it in their DNA so that it sticks, so that it's not just a fleeting thing whenever they're around you, but it's something that builds up every time that they're near you. But I really do always think about Peter Pan with that. It's like teaching other people how to fly, teaching other people how to make money and profit from doing what they love. So that's a lot of what I see in the 14. Peter Pan. I don't even know where all that crazy pants stuff came from, but like, this is my way of interpreting all of these gene keys. And like, some of it's inspired by, like I said, like Christy Anige or by Unlock Your Design. But like, after I've done hundreds of readings, I have my own little like Rolodex of my understanding of the gene keys. And that's how I use it. And sometimes it evolves. Sometimes it changes as it goes. Like, the more readings I do, it changes. Ooh, your evolution's in the 33. Got water on my face. I came up here. I usually have like 3 bottles of water up here. And I came up here with half a bottle of water. I'm like, what are you doing, Stephanie? But that 33, I've had to learn a lot about that. Oh, and by the way, before we get in too far, if you are somebody that wants to learn how to create content in an easy, fun way, like we've been talking about today, through your strengths, through your gifts, through your profile lines, through just being tapped into this energy of the gene keys, make sure you go to the link in my bio and click on keys to content. So it's a $99 2-part masterclass. It's part of my summer initiative to get as many human beings into the gene key world as possible so that they can start using them for their business, because it's so like, there are so few people in the world that know about these gene keys, and like, nobody's even using them. So this is like part of my summer goal is like, let's get everybody in. And so it's a 2-part masterclass on Monday and Thursday. If you're not able to make it, there's recordings, but make sure you go sign up for that as well, because we start Monday. But thanks very much. I did magic. Maybe I am Peter Pan. I love that. I love it. Or you can call yourself Tinkerbell, like whatever feels good. Okay, so the 33 has been a big one for me because it's in my pearl. And the pearl is the center blue one at the top of your chart. And this is what I call the money-making gene key. But basically, whenever we're tapped into that is like where we get our best money-making ideas. So I had to really zoom in on that 33 and find out the real juice behind it, like how to use it, right? And so your evolution is a really good place for it too, because our evolution, how I see it and how I teach these gene keys through the lens of business and entrepreneurship, the evolution is how we grow in our business and how we change, like whether it be the actual like tangible business or how we like our energy changes as we grow, as we scale, as we like move on to the next steps. And so your evolution is something that like comes up again and again in your life. And it's something that if you would look back at your past, you would see it echoing through your past like multiple times. And like, so oh, cute. Thank you. I like that little guy with his crown. And so every time you have big changes, this is whenever that 33 will come into play with you. And so the 33 I was bored with it at first, to be honest with you, because, and it was like, no, this is supposed to be my most important key. I can't be bored with it. But I had already been in the spirituality world for a long time. And I had done all the stuff, like taken animal shamanism classes and learned all about shamanism. And it was called the shaman. And I was like, oh, I'm like bored with that terminology. Like I was just like, I was getting sassy about spirituality and I was bored with the terminology. But further digging, I found out it's all about this like retreat energy of like not being disturbed by other people's stuff. And so for me, putting this in action really looked like not picking up the phone for the same people again and again every single week, the same people in my life who I loved but had the same problems, just wearing a different mask. And that would like get me out of my zone, where you're like this master contemplator. So you have really good ideas that come through. So whenever you have big changes in your life and like you're on the precipice, like you need to go make sure that you go get in your nest, get on top of a mountain, like get away from other people so that you can let this clear channel come through you, because you have such good ideas and insight and thoughts that will come through you. You've got to make sure that you have time for that every day, but also like whenever you have those big changes happening, that you're not so much picking up on everybody else's interpretations of things or how you're supposed to do it. You take them into consideration, yes, but it's really about your filtration system and how you understand like what's moving through you and what you think is important. So there is magic in the retreat of not needing to be so swept up with everybody else's stuff and just really trusting you and what your message is. But all righty, Rue. So this feels complete because my belly is rumbling. I'm hungry. So I'm going to make a handmade organite necklace. Oh, that's cool. My cousin's boyfriend, they've been together for a long time, but he makes organite, and they're like Seattle hippies. So they're like super cool. Yeah. You're welcome, Winter. But make sure you go follow me over on Instagram. Make sure you follow me on here for more on these gene keys, more on these like profile lines and how you can use them to create content in your business to be more confident as you show up on camera. I love taking these gene keys and teaching other lessons around them. So it's not the traditional way of just learning the gene keys. It's about how we infuse them in our business to make money online. So if you are somebody that wants to enjoy content creation and make it feel fun for your business, make sure you sign up for that masterclass. That's Monday and Thursday next week. It's $99 and we're going to have a freaking blasty blast. I was already making some of the slides today. So have a beautiful rest of your day. And I'm so glad you were able to join. Bye-bye. Thank you for being here and watching later. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.